Hello friends, family and kin, this is Barry Dermaz. This is an update to the criminal accusation by the state of Florida against me for using the private property of my family van on the public roads. The public free access to the roads that the state is charged to take care of on behalf of the people, but never to restrict the people while they maintain their self-governance. Alright? Today, well, let me back up. It's been many weeks since I made the first initial report to you, and wow, have I learned a lot. There's mountains of information if you're going to do it by the professionals, meaning the bar, the bar attorneys, and I see that they're behind everything, controlling with their legislation. And I have new appreciation for what Jesus said about lawyers who bind burdens on others that they themselves don't take upon themselves. And actually, he said some very hard things there. He said, "Woe unto you lawyers who do this." This is in Luke chapter 11, and I'm getting it more in line with Christ, what he says about these lawyers with their legalism and their fantasy to prescribing what shall be done in the future, disregarding what's happened in the past. All that matters is right now and the future, here's what shall be done, even though you haven't failed to love your neighbor. I have, and I told him today, you have no evidence that I failed to love my neighbor, do any harm. And he wants to talk to me about mala prohibita, activities that are prohibited, that has now been constituted as a crime. And I object to that vehemently as a student of our founding era for 23 years, friends, having such master teachers as Jim Rose in Redding, California, Miss Catherine Dang in the Oakland area, Herb Titus in Virginia, Paul Jaley up in Massachusetts, Marshall Foster down in Southern California, many others who have been so instrumental to teach me good things about the gospel effect in this country. Really good things. They're world overcoming. And that's what's happening here. It's befuddling to have an individual oppose the entire order of things, but their order is without liberty. See, their orders is tyrannous. They want so much control and regulating and the money component that there's tyranny there. The Christian idea of order is Jesus is Lord. That's the order that he governs his people with, and liberty. So we have order with liberty. The world wants to have anarchy on one end. On this end, with the government, the evil empire, because they're really not governing, they're meddling. They're becoming, well, they have been for generations, meddlers, and not to be trusted. That's why we have the right to remain silent. That's why you have the right to not divulge information that will be used against you. But this definitely, I'm going up against a conspiring of all the branches of government, plus the Florida Highway Patrol and the Florida Bar. So we have the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive conspiring together to control and extract money and labor out of people. And I put that question to the judge. I said, where is the independent judiciary? He couldn't hear it. He just couldn't hear me. He didn't respond to it. He says, I'm here to enforce the law. I said, we enforce the law? This is the judiciary. He could not hear it, my friends. The smugness of these people too. The prosecuting attorney, she's 28 years old, only been out of law school for 2 years, and goes straight into government service. Okay. These professional accusers. And Jesus had some really hard things to say. judgments on them. Woe for their wickedness. This is wicked, friends. And it's an indictment on the kind of gospel that is in this country that renders people impotent and slavish in mind and heart to others, rather than total allegiance, unlimited submission and obedience to Jesus Christ and His Spirit governing. So when people don't govern themselves under His law, which is love, love your neighbor, love God and love your neighbor, they rather submit to man's law, and that is not evidence of born-again life. Okay? There's a lot more I could say. I may follow this up with another video post, and I probably will. It's I'm a little drained right now, but I want to encourage you to read whatever I put below this video. I will add the motions to dismiss for lack of no contract with the state to sign anything. Imagine, I refuse to sign and get their membership card and pay for that membership card, and that's a criminal act here. Okay, you're prohibited. So you're forced to join the club, and if you don't join the club, you are going to pay for it with finances or time in jail. This thing is just so unlawful, and it's pure fantasy. It's really deep-seated in these people for years, and it's going to cost something to exercise my duty before God, to love Him and love my neighbor, love my enemies even. That these people are going to hear truth, because that truth is in my inward parts. Okay? But I will have my motions to dismiss in this blog post. One of them is addressing the spirit behind the letter of the law, and the other one is dealing with the letter of the law of the Florida Constitution and all their administrative minutia. But the spirit first. That's where there's principles that never change. Man does not make law. The legislatures do not make law. When they do, they have become an idol unto themselves. They become a false god, a rival deity to the only one lawmaker. Please go into the Epistle of James in chapter 2, 3. There's only one lawgiver. There's only one lawgiver, friends. And in Psalms 2, judges are to exercise their duty with fear and trembling. They're to kiss the Son. But you notice in Psalm 2 as well that the powers of the earth are conspiring against the Lord and His anointed. They can do that. However, greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. Greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. Please read my documentation. I pray to be encouragement to you of navigating this for my family's interests, of just providing for my family. Wow, this takes a lot of time to prepare, let alone the prayer time to study and to formulate my testimony in a court of law and before jury. And I'll let you know when that's going to be. There's some hurdles just getting there by getting information from the court that they want to charge me for. They forbid me to video or audio record the hearing, but then they want to charge me for it, $35 for video, and so much per page for the transcription. But then I have the Florida Constitution here that says justice shall be administered without sale. Without sale. And they're having a hard time hearing that. I went over to the court administrator, another building, Paul Silverman, he's the court administrator, and he got upset at me. I asked him to just read the plain English, and he's talking to me about policy and administration and procedures. And I show him the plain text without sale, and he's not compelled, he's not convicted, like, whoa, yeah, that does say without sale. No, it's just policy. And this is evidence that people who do not know how to think, they're trained what to when to think, and that's when it comes to court administration. That's only how this man knows how to think. This is Paul Silverman, the court administrator here in Alachua County, and he tells me to file a motion with the judge. Well, over here they tell me to go see him, and so you get this runaround, lack of accountability, and just walking this path of defending this fundamental duty to move my body freely without permission. Because think about it, to see the rightness of this idea, do you have the authority to restrict anybody from traveling down the road? Think about that. Can you go outside your home and restrict the free access of the flow of traffic? Well, the obvious answer is no. So if that's true, and it is true, where did the legislature get the authority to restrict travel by having to pay for a license? Now, this is not a case against the safety of traffic control devices and voluntarily complying with that. This is not about that. This is not about failing to demonstrate competency. The government is in no position to have authority over competency in these things. They are so incompetent of what is true law. And I trust you will hear that. This is what we have. Well, I'm going to be bringing it forth. But if you don't have the authority, and I don't have the authority to restrict somebody traveling freely in their own private vehicle, where did law enforcement get that authority? Until there's an injury, something that needs to be addressed.